In 1952, paranormal activity was reported at a family home in a small Merseyside town. The entity was capable of moving furniture and dragging residents from their beds. Frighteningly, it was even linked to a series of deaths at a local farm. But what kind of entity could be causing the paranormal phenomena? Light a candle, dim the lights. Let's open the case. 17-year-old John Glyn Jones lived in Runcorn with his family on Byron Street. He had concrete aspirations for qualifying as a draftsman and was a friendly but serious young man who kept himself out of trouble. In the middle of sunny August in 1952, John's household had family guests staying over which required their usual sleeping arrangements to alter. John was forced to share his bed with his elderly grandfather, whilst two female family members shared the other double bed in the same bedroom. After retiring for the night, the mysterious disturbances in the bedroom began. From within the drawer of a dressing table, scratching and tapping sounds could be heard. At first, John's grandfather accused John of playing silly games. However, the table soon began to violently shake and bang against the wall. The unexplained noises and erratically moving furniture continued and increased in volume until the room's occupants had to vacate their sleeping quarters. The peculiar disturbances ceased when the room was empty. However, they began once more when the family attempted to return to their beds. Sleep was out of the question. On the following night, with the family badly in need of a good quality sleep, the disturbances unfortunately returned. Dressing table drawers flew open and slammed shut repeatedly. Bed covers were torn from the bed and thrown around the room. The dressing table moved away from the wall and loud thumps also shook the family home. A clock shattered as though it had been hit by a sledgehammer. The next night, John and his granddad awoke to an enormous chest being suspended in mid-air above the bed. Panicked, they exited the room. However, the chest returned to the ground fairly gently. During the course of these disturbances, all the family initially believed it to be John playing practical jokes, and so he was subjected to various tests to ensure he was not the reason for the strange activities. However, as the activity worsened, the family became convinced that supernatural happenings were actually taking place. Each night, young John Jones would be dragged from his bed and viciously thrown to the ground. Household items would also be aimed at him, suggesting that John appeared to be the target of the paranormal disturbances. 3 police officers came to investigate reports of disorderly conduct at the property, but realised that resolving the matter was beyond their capabilities when they were violently thrown from an empty chest that they sat upon. Despite trying to keep the pandemonium at No. 1 Byron Street to themselves, the stories spread throughout the community and curious Runcorn residents lined the street. The Runcorn Guardian reported the case, which, by this point, had been occurring for over 10 weeks. Quite out of the ordinary for a small Merseyside town in 1952, the story became an international sensation and sparked theories, advice and visitors from all across the world. At one stage, a spiritualist medium, Mr. Francis, offered his help. He believed the activity to be the work of a poltergeist and told the family that he would conduct a seance to communicate with it. At the beginning of the seance, unsurprisingly, the poltergeist did not take kindly to Mr. Francis, as 2 Bibles, a picture book, a bottle of ointment and a table cover were thrown around the bedroom and crashed against the wall in the presence of several witnesses. Following the seance, a quiet period ensued for the family. However, this did not last too long, and soon enough, the poltergeist had returned with a vengeance. The Society for Psychical Research, based in London, were alerted to the paranormal phenomenon occurring in Runcorn, and several members were prepared to observe the activity for themselves. Reverend W.H. Stevens, a local Methodist minister, was sent by the Society for Psychical Research to the Runcorn home. When the Reverend entered the property, a dictionary was launched at his head. He held a vigil in the haunted bedroom and was able to explain to the family his reason for why a poltergeist haunted their house. Stevens claimed it was young John who was causing the aggressive paranormal activity due to his frustrations from joining the military. Also, John was finding the transition from childhood to adulthood a rather difficult one, and the negative energy surrounding John was manifesting as a violent psychic force. At the time, the theory that a build-up of repressed energy, particularly in a teenager, could be latched onto and abused by an evil entity was a commonly held idea in paranormal discourse. Interestingly, when John left for the military, it is reported that the paranormal occurrences came to an abrupt halt. Not too far from Byron Street was Poole Farm. This was to become the next stop for the poltergeist. Harold Crowther and his wife owned the 15th century farmhouse. Paranormal events began occurring for the couple when Mrs. Crowther suddenly saw the ghost of her deceased father.
He was dressed as usual, wearing spectacles and smoking a cigarette with a long ash, which was characteristic of him. I saw him very clearly, and then he vanished.
The following day, one of the farm's pigs dropped dead. 53 pedigreed pigs at the farm systematically died for the same reason. The vets concluded that all 53 animals had crushed windpipes. Mrs. Crowther claimed,
I saw my father again after the last pig had died while I was clearing out one of the sties.
Mr. Crowther had also had a paranormal experience. He explained,
2 days after the loss of the last pig, I saw a large black cloud about 7 feet in height, shapeless except for 2 prongs sticking out of the back, moving about in the yard. The shapeless mass approached me, stopping about 4 or 5 feet away. Then it turned in the direction of the pigsties, passed into an outhouse and disappeared.
Mrs. Crowther confirmed the description of the entity.
It was much smaller and more sprawled out. At no time did I see the prongs. It just travelled like smoke when drawn by suction.
The sinister poltergeist even attempted to kill Mr. Crowther. On one occasion, it tried to strangle him in his bed, but flew out of the window when he turned on a lamp. The final time the Runcorn poltergeist was seen was in December of 1952. When it appeared to disintegrate into a small ball of smoke which drifted into the sky. So, could the entity which tormented the homes of the Jones family be a poltergeist, or do you believe the shadow to be a demon due to the descriptions given by Mr. and Mrs. Crowther? Is it that both properties were dealing with the same paranormal phenomenon, or were there 2 separate elements haunting the streets of Runcorn in 1952? Comment below with a ghost emoji if you believe the spirit to be a poltergeist. Alternatively, use a devil emoji if you believe the entity to be a demon. Thank you for watching Cases of Mystery and Myth. If you have enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe as you won't want to miss our next case.